You know, being someone who is formerly a liberal and, of course, someone who is still a libertarian, I'm quite confused on how people really hate Donald Trump. You know, there's a lot of people out there that call Donald Trump a Nazi, fascist, lunatic, who have all of these mixed up and jumbled ideas of what the fuck they're talking about, because all of these people haven't been paying attention to politics for all of their lives. They don't know anything about what the hell is going on in the world, and yet they want to say that Donald J. Trump is the worst president that we've ever had in the history of the United States of America. Forego George W. Bush from before Barack Obama, forego Barack Obama, forego FDR, who has put in some of our worst socialist policies in the United States, forego Woodrow Wilson, who created the welfare state and destroyed the black family, forego many other people before then, even people that you can say are sort of controversial when it comes to whether or not people like him or hate him, meaning Abraham Lincoln, because there are a lot of people who are against Abraham Lincoln because they see him as an aggressor to wage war against the South when all they wanted to do was secede from the Union, which was within our within the constitutional right of the South, versus love him because he was the one that freed the slaves through the Emancipation Proclamation. You know, for all of these other presidents who did terrible, controversial things that everyone agrees upon, that there were terrible or controversial or really good if you're a socialist like Franklin Delano Roosevelt, like I used to be. Yeah, all of those people, let's just forget them. You know, George W. Bush with his illegal wars that he started, the pretense of actually getting into Afghanistan in order to oust Osama bin Laden, who happened to be in none other than Pakistan, who we were selling weapons over to in the first place. So it's an obvious thing that that was the safest place for Osama bin Laden to flee to, because they were our actual strategic ally in the area at the time. Yeah, forget all of these people. They're all good presidents, even though they have no idea what the hell happened under their presidency, because they don't pay attention. They didn't even fucking pay attention to politics. Forego Barack Obama, who's actually been known as the one president who's used drone warfare for most of his presidency, and yet he was seen as the big peace president because even before he got into his first term of office really that much, he was given the Nobel Peace Prize for doing what? You know what? It's absolutely fucking nothing. He got the Nobel Peace Prize for being the fucking president and promising things that he never followed up on. He never shut down Guantanamo Bay like I was hoping for. He never ended the wars that I thought he was going to end, that he was so against, or he claimed to be so against when George W. Bush was in power, or when he was on his campaign trail. He deported thousands upon illegal citizens from the United States. Oh, and catch and release programs, which led it to be people crossing over to the United States, and you were supposed to utilize our law enforcement agencies to catch them and then release them, because that makes sense. If you actually wanted to catch them, you wouldn't release them. What the hell is the point of even catching them in the first place if you're going to release them? It doesn't make any sense for allowing these criminals to actually create even more violent crimes in order to have these people let go, because, I don't know, Yeah, all those people are great. All of those people are wonderful. Those were wonderful presidents. But Donald J. Trump, no, he's the one. He's the evil guy. He's the evil boogeyman and everything else like that everyone cowers upon. And he's the big racist, narcissistic homophobe and everything else like that. When you look through his policies and his personality, way back when, he was the biggest person who was against racism. He told a country club that they should get their shit together because they're not allowing Jewish people within their country club. He was hanging out with all of these black activists like Jesse, whatever the hell his name is. I actually hate the guy because I don't think he's anywhere near what the civil rights leader should be, like Martin Luther King Jr., because he basically sold out the cause by race baiting instead of bringing people together no matter what their race was, like Martin Luther King wanted in the fucking first place. No. Well, he hung out with all of these people. He didn't care about your race. He didn't care about your gender identity. Even that was not a thing back then. I mean, maybe it was in the closet, but he didn't give a shit about that. He didn't give a shit about people being homosexual or something like that. He's doing nothing about taking away rights from homosexuals or anything else like that. And I'm completely on board with that. Hell, I was one of the major people that were saying, hey, you know, gays should have a right across the board. They should have the right to marry and everything else like that. Who the fuck cares what they fucking do in the bedroom? I don't give a shit. I was one of those people, and I continue to be one of those people. I don't give a shit with homosexuality and everything else like that. What the fuck ever? Who cares? He's actually started an initiative to decriminalize homosexuality across the board for every single country. He might not have the authority to do so, but him just saying it actually lends power and yields power over to the entire world. Hey, this is the United States' stance on homosexuality. It shouldn't be criminalized. You know, he's one of those people. You know, he's one of those actually classical progressive people when it comes to identity politics. He doesn't give a shit. And that's what it really should be. As long as if it has to do with adults and you're not actually involving children in any way, it shouldn't be a problem. It shouldn't be an issue. But of course, you know, liberals are so out of their fucking minds that they think that it's racist not to be racist against white people or not to be racist against minorities by saying minorities can actually succeed on their own without the government helping them out. That's racist. To say, I don't see people based upon the color of their skin. They'll call that colorblind. And if you're colorblind, you're either blind or dumb because you're not realizing the oppressive nature of certain people, you know, according to their racial status. I don't see that because I think you as an individual can do whatever the fuck you want based upon your own individual rights and your own individual mind and your individual abilities. You can do what the fuck ever you want to do. But of course, I'm a racist because I don't give a shit about your race. But of course, you know, maybe that's exactly why Trump, at least nowadays, is considered as the worst person ever in the world, and Adolf Hitler and everything else like that, because he simply does not give a shit about any of these things. The fact that he is actually truly a liberal when it comes to these social issues means that he's Adolf Hitler. Because that makes sense. Oh, and don't forget the fact that he's also led the force and the strive for lowest levels of black unemployment, lowest levels of Hispanic unemployment, lowest levels of Asian unemployment when it comes to the United States and everything, because of his ability to understand basic economics and understand that maybe it's the best idea to maybe lower taxes so it's easier for certain businesses to pay off their employees, their overhead costs, their leases on whatever property that they own in order to run their business. He's lowered regulations, so regulations aren't as strict, so it's easier for bigger businesses and everything to continue to go on with what they need to without the overhead of legalities and stuff, and it's easier for their competition and their competitors like entrepreneurs to get in and actually start a business. And then he's lowered taxes on the individual people. So as far as you might not see as big of a increase in your tax returns, what that actually means is that you're actually paying less when it comes to your income, when it comes to your paycheck that you get every single month. I know that once he's actually signed that off into law, I did see a slight uptick, maybe about a grocery bill or two, with the amount of money that I'm actually taking home instead of giving over to the government in order to get back at a 0% interest at the end of the year, instead of seeing maybe $2,000-$3,000 at the end of the year. That money could have already been spent on grocery bills or some sort of shopping or something like that. I see it right now, so when I need it, I use it. When I don't need it, I'll just put it in the bank to save, which will, in fact, grow the economy because more businesses will be able to borrow from the bank, or entrepreneurs will be able to borrow from the bank in order to grow their business. So, yeah, these are all horrible things, according to the new pseudo-progressive left, is the bullshit individuals who don't actually pay attention to politics at all. Oh, and it's a horrible thing that he got us out of the war with Syria, which at first I thought he wasn't going to, because he was making all these promises and then he didn't, and then I was really angry that he didn't get us out of the war with Syria, calling him a sellout, and then finally he got us out. I'm like, about fucking time he got us out of that proxy war with Russia. Yeah, that's a terrible thing that he finally fucking did that. That's horrible. That's really awful that he went over to Afghanistan and make a strategic display of himself by having a rally during Christmas and having Afghanistan actually kick out the military for its occupation, which we could have stayed, but he said, you know what, alright, fine, we'll take him out. So, in a way, that was number one, diplomatic, because he said, alright, fucked up, and he got our troops out. And number two, it was great for the anti-war left, and I guess the anti-war right now, because the anti-war left doesn't exist anymore, because all the leftists were shrieking about how we needed to stay in there, and it makes us look weak and everything else like that, sounding like a bunch of fucking 90s and early 2000s neocons. What the hell has happened to the left? Where the only thing they give a shit about when it comes to war is making sure that we're in war, that we're in the Middle East perpetually, like the neocons want, and that transgender people are in there. It's actually kind of the reason why I was against DOTA being repealed, was because, I mean, if you really didn't want to become a part of the war, you can always say, I'm gay. You know, not that that's right or anything else like that, but it's not really right for people to be drafted over into wars in the Middle East, especially when it's completely unconstitutional and not right in the first place, because we're in a war that we shouldn't be in the first place over getting rid of proxy dictators in the Middle East for not following our instructions, like how we got rid of Saddam Hussein, not because he was a ruthless dictator, but because he was one of the ruthless dictators that we installed, and now he wasn't listening to us because he wanted to have a monopoly over the oil transfer through the Strait of Hormuz, so he took that over. Oh, and George W. Bush said, fuck it! That guy has got to go. And we'll say because he has WMDs and he's working with Osama bin Laden, who was, of course, a CIA asset named, named, what's his name? Ben Osmond. Tim Osmond, that's what it is. Yeah. So all these things, ending war, making sure that businesses aren't stifled by regulations, that we're not as taxed, that businesses aren't as taxed, so they have a better ability to grow and hire more people on, and that he's very socially liberal, the actual social liberal, meaning not caring about gay people, not caring about the color of your skin, not caring about transgender people, making sure that the military-industrial complex has actually lessened its power over time. And the fact is that I understand that he has increased the amount of money that we actually put into our military, but at the same time, it comes from a tactic called speak softly and walk with a giant stick. The giant stick meaning the U.S. military, speaking softly meaning diplomacy. But I would say there's a slight difference between Teddy Roosevelt's speak softly and walk with a big stick and Donald J. Trump's yell loudly and walk with a giant stick, meaning, as we all know, Donald J. Trump is sort of a bully, which I like, because that's what we need. He acts like a complete asshole, because he is an asshole. But he does this to scare our enemies, and not have them go to war with us. So he'll have all these Twitter spates and everything with Kim Jong-un, or Kim Jong-il now, and people will say, oh no, they're gonna attack us, they're gonna nuke us and everything, when they've been doing the same thing to us for years and years and years and decades and decades. And guess what? You know what? We're in a world that is not post-apocalyptic. We're actually in the United States without having a nuke being dropped on us, because Donald J. Trump had the ability to be as stupid and brash as Kim Jong-il when it came to diplomacy. Instead of saying, oh, yes, Kim Jong-il, please do not do that. Do not do this. Let me give you weapons and everything and placate you like the Clintons did. Or, oh, if you keep saying that, we're going to attack you and not do anything about it. Like, oh, Obama. Well, no, he said the same fucking shit back. Oh, I'm gonna kill you. You're really tiny and everything else like that. You're Rocket Man, blah, blah, blah. You know, it worked. It worked because he was an idiot. He was acting the part. That's what he does. He's an actor. Donald J. Trump, before he got into the presidency, along with his business dealings and everything else like that, if you actually look at the stuff that he used to do, he was an actor. He worked on The Apprentice. He was the big brash asshole, which is actually why before he became president, I fucking hated the dude. But now that he's the president, I'm like, great, this dude is awesome. He's doing all this stuff. But he's the horrible big meanie. Big orange meanie. We have to get him out of office because he's lowering the amount of globalism. And globalism is good because globalism makes sure that the big rich plutocrats in power stay in power. We have to make sure that all the brown people in the Middle East are dead. But that's not racist or anything else like that because they're the patties. And we want to make sure the neocons are really happy and everything else like that. Let's say there's two things, however, that really have gotten on my nerves about Donald J. Trump. Number one is the fact that he has sold weapons to Saudi Arabia, which is a big downer. I understand that also has been done for many other presidents before, but that does not give him any sense of happiness in my book. That is completely fucking stupid to me. And the other bad thing that I don't like about him is the fact that he has this stupid fucking deal, which goes on against the First Amendment, about basically outlawing any speech against Jewish people or Israel or anything else like that. And yes, I'm part Jewish. Ooh, big deal. It actually does annoy me when people talk shit about Jews and everything else like that, and they relate it to Israel. Because for the longest time, when I was a leftist, and I mean, I guess kind of now, I'm against Zionism. I'm not a Zionist. I think that Zionism is really fucking stupid. And I also think that the sort of political situation over in the Middle East when it comes to Israel versus Palestine is extremely complicated. I don't really think there should be an Israel or Palestine. I think the United States or the United Kingdom should actually take it over for themselves and have it be another secular state. And I think that's actually the big problem with having a religious state in the Middle East in the first place, because you have all of this religious bullshit surrounding it, making it a lot more difficult to actually negotiate any sort of deal when it comes to religious Jews and religious Muslims. I think either, the United States or the United Kingdom should take it over, make it into a secular state. Everyone should be able to go in there and live under a civil society based on common law, or we should just fucking glass the place, because honestly, I'm fucking sick of hearing about the Jews and the Palestinians all arguing, this is our God-given land, because it would be great for that to be nuked, and that whole line of reasoning and argumentation to also be nuked, because I think both of them are fucking stupid, and always have, and probably always will. This has been Lapse of Apathy, coming at you, not live, but whenever time of convenience yours is to actually watch this video, which is probably going to be only 1 or 2 people. But as always, I just make these videos because I have a lot on my mind. Have a wonderful day. Bye.